Welcome back to Wake Up Carolina on the iCarter Talk Network.
It's hard to find a conservative radio show that hadn't said COVID in the first 2.5 hours of its broadcast, but we would be that show this morning. We've not mentioned COVID, infection rates, deaths, CDC, FDA, vaccine mandates, but we'll get there in just a second. We have with us infectious diseases analyst and executive director of the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, Patty Olinger. Ms. Olinger, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. And you?
So I've got a very random and generic question, and I want to get your take on this. Who are we, the public, to trust as we try to digest and contemplate information that we get? We get an opinion here, we get a politician there, we get a doctor over here, we get a governor and a president, a minister. I mean, there's so much information coming our way. We're not doctors. We're not infectious disease analysts. We trust those who have, I don't know, educational backgrounds and research backgrounds that lead us to believe they know what they're talking about. Who are we to trust in all this confusion?
Yeah, and I realize that that's been very difficult this last year. Especially one thing that people have to remember is that, you know, this is a new virus, and unfortunately we are still learning about this virus and the variants that are coming out as it's evolving. And it becomes really tough as the public when you're waiting for, you know, I guess a hard and fast line. You know, it's red or blue, that's probably a bad analogy.
No, that's probably the proper analogy.
Orange, you know. But it's one of those things because CDC has changed their direction a couple times, and part of it is because they've learned more. And I think what frustrates all of us is when politics get involved, because at the end of the day, the virus doesn't care, and so it's challenging. But what I will say is a lot of what at the end of the day that we can all go by are things that, and I'll say common sense, that we already know. One is that, you know, we do have a vaccine. It is safe. It's been in millions and really billions of doses that have been applied now. And we know that it protects against serious illness and death, even against the Delta virus. And so that's one thing we know. The other thing is that, you know, masks do matter. It helps us protect ourselves and others. And if you're in a high-risk situation, even you may be feeling okay, you're vaccinated and everything, but maybe you have a family member who's immunocompromised and you don't want, you know, to expose them. Wear your mask, especially into, you know, crowded spaces. Surfaces matter. I mean, I know that this is an airborne pathogen, but we also know that there is some percentage, we don't know what, that could potentially become infected from a contaminated surface, and then we touch our eyes, nose, and mouth, so high touch points, and washing our hands and, you know, and get educated. And I think that's the, you know, hard thing is where do you go to get educated? But just remembering those things that we've been talking about now for quite a long time, you know, we just need to remain vigilant, especially as we're getting into also the flu season and everything.
As I read about this in the infancy, of the early stages of COVID before the Delta variant, it dawned on me that it was obvious this disease is not, the virus is not going away. I mean, it's here to stay, and we'll deal with it in perpetuity, I would imagine. And I said something on the air one day that there are two kinds of people, those that have had COVID and those that will eventually get COVID. Is it as simple as that, or is that a misstatement?
I think there's a lot of people that I've seen and talked to and read. There's the thought that at some point in time, with it being this pervasive, or, you know, it's out there, and it's not just a little pocket. You will have come in contact with COVID, and at some point in time, even, you know, being vaccinated and protected, you will, which is the reason why you want to, is that it is so percentage-wise out there that you will at some point in time be exposed to it. And so whether you get ill, or whether you're protected by the vaccination, is going to be something that we're all going to have to deal with.
Last question. I want to get your take on this. We're beginning to hear a little bit of talk about natural immunity. We went a long time talking about vaccination and infection rates. I heard absolutely nothing about natural immunity until recently. Why is that, and what do you make of natural immunity, and how many Americans may indeed have acquired natural immunity?
We don't know the answer to the last part of that question at this point in time, and we also don't know. I know that there's some researchers that are looking at, natural immunity and how long it may stay. The problem that we run into is verification and testing. I mean, it's expensive to get tested for, compared to just go get, the vaccination. And we do know what the vaccination, as we're learning, what will that protection be provided to you. And because of the natural aspects of things, it may be to a specific virus, and it may not, have that broader sense of immunity that the vaccination may have, meaning that it's giving you protection against a certain variant, but a new variant or the Delta variant, if you were, let's say, the original variant, there's a lot of questions that people are researching right now, hopefully very quickly, but it is something that they're looking into.
Do we have a test for the Delta variant?
Yeah, I mean, they look at the PCR, and they will be able to determine, and that's why you get these numbers of, I think the latest was that they're saying that, most of the infections right now up in the upper 90s that they're seeing are the Delta variant, so they can tell. I don't know as far as the quick test that, let's say, if you went to your local public health group, if those are what they're using right now, but I know that they have that capability of being able to determine the difference between the variants.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the information. Have a great weekend.
You too.